The woman stumbling toward Owen Tucker's ranch looked more like death than life, her dress torn and caked with layers of dust and blood that made it impossible to tell what color it had originally been. Owen had been mending a fence post when he first spotted her silhouette wavering in the afternoon heat, and for a moment he thought she might be a mirage conjured by the relentless Texas sun. But mirages did not fall forward into the dirt with quite such finality, and they certainly did not lie there motionless as he dropped his tools and sprinted across the dry grass toward her collapsed form. He reached her in less than a minute, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust with each pounding step. When he knelt beside her and carefully turned her onto her back, he sucked in a sharp breath. She was young, probably no more than 22 or 23, with dark blonde hair matted against a face streaked with grime and what looked like dried tears. Her lips were cracked and bleeding, and when he pressed his fingers gently against her neck, searching for a pulse, he felt his own heart hammering with relief when he found one, faint but steady. "Miss, can you hear me?" Owen kept his voice low and calm, the same tone he used with spooked horses. "You are safe now. I am going to get you inside." Her eyelids fluttered but did not open. Owen wasted no more time on questions she could not answer. He slid one arm beneath her knees and the other behind her shoulders, lifting her with practiced ease. She weighed almost nothing, and that worried him more than the dirt or the torn dress. How long had she been wandering out there? The walk back to his ranch house felt longer than it should have, even though it could not have been more than 200 yards. Owen's ranch was modest but well-maintained, a testament to 5 years of hard work since he had struck out on his own at age 23. Now 28, he had built something he could be proud of, even if he lived alone except for the handful of cattle and horses that depended on him. He shouldered his way through the front door, leaving it open behind him to let in whatever breeze might find its way inside. The main room served as kitchen, dining area, and sitting room all in one, and he carried the unconscious woman straight through to the only bedroom, laying her as gently as he could on his bed. Water. She needed water more than anything else. Owen grabbed the pitcher from his washstand and poured some into a tin cup, then returned to the bedside and carefully lifted her head, pressing the cup to her lips. Most of the water dribbled down her chin, but he saw her throat work as she swallowed a small amount. "That is it," he murmured. "Just a little more." This time her eyes did open, just barely, revealing irises the color of creek water in summer, a pale green blue that seemed too clear and beautiful to belong to someone in such desperate condition. They focused on his face with obvious effort. "Please," she whispered, her voice like gravel scraping across wood. "Do not send me back." "Back where? Who hurt you?" Owen's jaw tightened. He had seen women in bad situations before. Texas in 1882 was not always kind to anyone, but it was especially cruel to women without protection or means. "My uncle," she managed, and then her eyes rolled back and she was unconscious again. Owen sat back on his heels, his mind racing. An uncle. That could mean many things, none of them good based on her condition. He looked down at her torn, filthy dress and made a decision. She needed to be cleaned up, and those clothes needed to be burned. He had never undressed a woman before, never been with one in that way, and the situation felt impossibly awkward despite being clearly necessary. Owen had always been respectful of women, raised by a mother who would have tanned his hide for any improper behavior. And even now, with an unconscious stranger in his bed, he felt heat creeping up his neck at what he was about to do. "This is for your health," he said aloud, as if speaking the words would make it less uncomfortable. Nothing improper. He worked as quickly and clinically as he could manage, keeping his eyes averted as much as possible while he removed the ruined dress and undergarments. There were bruises, he noted grimly, some fresh and some fading to yellow-green. Finger-shaped marks on her upper arms, a darker bruise across her ribs. His hands clenched into fists before he forced them to relax. Getting angry would not help her now. Owen draped a sheet over her and went to heat water on the stove. His mother had always believed in the healing power of a hot bath, and while he usually made do with cold water and a quick wash, this woman deserved better. He had a large metal tub that he used maybe once a month, and he dragged it into the bedroom and began the process of heating and hauling water. It took the better part of an hour to fill the tub enough for a proper bath. By then the woman had stirred again, her eyes opening with more awareness than before. "Where am I?" She tried to sit up, realized she was naked beneath the sheet and clutched it to her chest with both hands. Her eyes went wide with fear. "What did you do?" "Nothing." Owen held up both hands, standing near the door to give her space. "You collapsed outside my ranch. Your clothes were filthy and torn and you needed to be cleaned up. I drew you a bath. That is all, I swear it." She stared at him for a long moment, and he could see her taking in his face his stance, the honest concern he hoped showed in his expression. Whatever she saw there must have reassured her somewhat, because the rigid fear in her shoulders eased just slightly. "Who are you?" she asked. "Owen Tucker. This is my ranch about 15 miles south of Amarillo. Who are you?" Penelope Garrison." She swallowed hard. "How long have I been here?" "Maybe 2 hours. You said something about your uncle before you passed out again. Do you remember that?" Her face went pale beneath the dirt. "I remember, and I meant what I said. Please do not send me back to him. I would rather die." The quiet certainty in her voice sent a chill through Owen despite the heat of the day. "Nobody is sending you anywhere you do not want to go." "You are safe here, Miss Garrison. I give you my word on that." Tears suddenly spilled down her cheeks, cutting clean tracks through the grime on her face. "I do not know why you would help me. You do not know me. I know you needed help, and I was here to give it. That is enough." Owen gestured to the steaming tub. "That water is going to get cold if you do not use it soon. I will step outside and give you privacy. Call out if you need anything." He left before she could respond, pulling the door shut behind him and walking out onto the front porch. The afternoon sun was starting its slow descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Owen sat down on the steps and let out a long breath, trying to process what had just happened. A woman had literally fallen into his life, battered and desperate, running from an uncle who had clearly hurt her. Owen was not naive about the ways of the world. He knew what men could do to women, especially when they held power over them. The thought made his stomach turn. From inside the house, he heard the faint splash of water and knew Penelope was getting into the bath. Good. She needed it, needed to wash away whatever hell she had been through. He would give her all the time she needed. Owen sat on those porch steps for nearly an hour, watching the sun sink lower and thinking about what came next. He could not just let her walk back out into the world with nowhere to go. But keeping her here, unmarried and unrelated, would ruin her reputation if anyone found out. In 1882, Texas, that kind of thing mattered, even out here where civilization was still finding its footing. There was only one solution that made sense, but it was crazy. He barely knew her. Hell, he had only heard her speak a handful of sentences. But the alternative was sending her away, and he had already promised he would not do that. When Penelope finally called out that she was finished, Owen went back inside to find her wrapped in the sheet again, sitting on the edge of the bed with her wet hair hanging down her back. The tub water was nearly black with dirt. "I put some clothes on the chair there," Owen said, pointing to a set of his own shirt and trousers. They will be too big, but at least they are clean. I will step out again. Wait. Her voice stopped him at the door. I need to explain about my uncle. You do not have to tell me anything. I want to. Penelope took a shaky breath. My parents died 2 years ago, cholera. I had no one else, so I went to live with my Uncle Herbert in Oklahoma City. He seemed kind at first, but then he started looking at me differently. Touching me when he should not, saying things. Owen's jaw clenched so hard it ached, but he stayed quiet, letting her talk. Last week he told me I was going to marry his business partner, a man named Raymond who is 53 years old and already buried 2 wives. I said no. My uncle said I did not have a choice, that I owed him for taking me in, for feeding me and housing me. Her hands twisted in the sheet. When I refused again, he locked me in my room, said I would stay there until I learned to be grateful. I climbed out the window that night and started walking. I took a horse from the stable, but it threw me about a day ago and ran off. I have been walking since then. From Oklahoma City, that is more than 250 miles. Owen could not keep the shock from his voice. I know. I did not care where I went as long as it was away from there. I ate what I could find, drank from streams when I found them. I just kept walking. She looked up at him with those clear eyes, now red-rimmed from crying and exhaustion. You are the first person who has shown me any kindness in a very long time, Mr. Tucker. Owen, he corrected gently. Please call me Owen. Owen. She tested the name, and something about hearing it in her voice made his heart do an odd little skip. Thank you. For the bath, for everything. I will leave as soon as I can manage it. I will not impose on your hospitality any longer than necessary. And go where? Owen moved into the room properly now, pulling the chair from the corner and sitting so they were at eye level. You have no money, no family except an uncle you cannot go back to, and no prospects. What do you think will happen to you out there alone? Penelope looked down at her hands. I do not know, but I cannot stay here. It would not be proper. No, it would not, Owen agreed. Not unless we were married. Her head snapped up so fast he heard her neck crack. What? Marry me? The words tumbled out before he could second-guess them. I know it sounds crazy. We just met, and I am proposing marriage like it is no bigger decision than choosing what to have for supper. But think about it practically. You need protection and a home. I need. He paused, realizing he did not actually know what he needed until this moment. I need someone. This ranch is lonely, and I am not getting any younger. We could help each other. You do not know anything about me, Penelope said, but Owen could hear something like hope creeping into her voice. I know you are brave enough to walk more than 200 miles to escape a bad situation. I know you are a survivor. That is more than a lot of people can say. Owen leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. I am not saying you have to give me an answer right now. Take some time, get your strength back. But the offer stands. Marry me, and you will never have to worry about your uncle or anyone else hurting you again. Penelope was quiet for a long moment, and Owen could practically see her turning the offer over in her mind, examining it from all angles. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. What would you expect from this marriage? It was a fair question, and one that deserved an honest answer. A partnership, someone to help run the ranch, to cook and keep house. Eventually, maybe children, if that is something we both wanted, but I would not force anything on you, Penelope. Not after what you have been through. We could take things slow, get to know each other proper. And if I said yes, she met his eyes directly. When would we marry? Tomorrow, if you are willing. There is a circuit preacher who comes through every few weeks, but there is also a justice of the peace in Amarillo who can perform the ceremony. We could ride in tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, Penelope repeated, as if testing how the word felt. Then, to Owen's surprise, she nodded. Yes, all right. I will marry you, Owen Tucker. Relief and something else, something warm and hopeful, flooded through Owen's chest. You mean it. I mean it. You are right that I need protection and a home. But more than that, you are the first person in a long time to treat me like a human being worthy of respect. That matters more than you might realize. She stood, still clutching the sheet around her. Now please let me get dressed. I assume we have preparations to make. Owen left her to change and walked back out to the main room in a daze. Had he really just proposed marriage to a woman he had met only hours ago? Had she really just accepted? His mother would have thought him insane, but his mother had been dead for 3 years, claimed by the same fever that had taken his father 6 months later. He was alone in the world, same as Penelope, and maybe that was exactly why this made a strange kind of sense. When Penelope emerged wearing his oversized clothes, sleeves and pant legs rolled up to approximately the right length, Owen had to bite back a smile. She looked like a child playing dress-up, and yet there was nothing childish about the determined set of her jaw or the intelligence in her eyes. I must look ridiculous, she said. You look alive, which is a sight better than when I found you. Owen moved to the stove. Are you hungry? I have beans and some salt pork. It is not fancy, but it is filling. I am starving, Penelope admitted, and Owen noticed the way she swayed slightly on her feet. Sit down before you fall down, he ordered, pointing to one of the chairs at his rough-hewn table. You need food and rest in that order. She sat without argument, which told him just how exhausted she really was. Owen heated up the beans and pork, adding some dried peppers for flavor, and set a plate in front of her along with a hunk of bread he had baked 2 days ago. It was a little stale but still edible. Penelope fell on the food like she had not eaten in days, which she probably had not. Owen watched her eat while he put together his own plate, noting the delicate bone structure of her face now that it was clean. She was beautiful, he realized with a start. Even exhausted and wearing men's clothes 3 sizes too big, even with her hair still damp and tangled, Penelope Garrison was genuinely beautiful. And tomorrow she would be Penelope Tucker. The thought sent a thrill of nervousness through him, but also excitement. He had been alone for so long, working this ranch with nothing but his own determination, and the occasional help from neighboring ranchers during cattle drives or branding season. The idea of having someone to share it with, to talk to in the evenings, to wake up beside in the mornings, it appealed to him more than he had realized anything could. Tell me about the ranch, Penelope said between bites. How long have you been here? 5 years. I bought the land with money. I saved working for a big outfit up near Fort Worth. Started with nothing but a dozen head of cattle and a lot of hope. Now I have close to 100 head, good grazing land, and a house that does not leak when it rains. Owen allowed himself a small smile. It is not much, but it is mine. It is more than I have ever had, Penelope said quietly. My family rented our home in Oklahoma City. We never owned anything outright. Well, you will now. Half of everything I have will be yours once we are married. Penelope set down her fork and looked at him seriously. You are being very generous, Owen. I want you to know I do not take that lightly. I will work hard. I will earn my place here. I do not doubt that for a second, and he did not. There was a strength in Penelope that adversity had not broken, and he suspected that when she was properly fed and rested, she would prove to be a formidable partner. They finished eating in companionable silence, and then Owen showed her where everything was in the house. The bedroom would be hers for now, he explained. He would sleep out in the main room on his bedroll until she was comfortable with other arrangements. Penelope thanked him with such genuine gratitude that it made Owen's chest ache. That night, lying on the floor in front of the cold fireplace, Owen stared at the ceiling beams and wondered what the hell he had gotten himself into. Marriage, tomorrow, to a woman he had known for less than a day. It was insane. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Penelope as she had looked earlier, clean and fed and safe, and he knew he had made the right choice. Insane or not, this was happening. Morning came too quickly and too slowly all at once. Owen woke before dawn, as he always did, and went about his morning chores in the growing light. He fed the horses, checked on the cattle in the near pasture, and hauled fresh water from the well. By the time he returned to the house, the sun was fully up and Penelope was awake, standing in the main room looking uncertain. "Good morning," Owen said, setting down the water bucket. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in weeks," Penelope admitted. "That bed is very comfortable." "Good. Are you still willing to go through with this today?" For a moment he thought she might have changed her mind overnight, might have realized the madness of agreeing to marry a stranger. But Penelope lifted her chin and nodded firmly. "I am. Are you?" "I am." Owen grabbed his hat from the peg by the door. "I need to ride over to my neighbor's place and ask them to watch the ranch for the day. We should be back by evening, but I do not want the animals going without care. Will you be all right here alone for an hour or so?" "I will be fine." "Owen." "Thank you. Again. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it each time." "You do not need to keep thanking me, Penelope. We are helping each other, remember." He left before the conversation could get more awkward and rode out to the Morrison Ranch about 3 miles east. Jack Morrison was a good man, a few years older than Owen with a wife and 3 young children. He had been a helpful neighbor more than once, and Owen trusted him. Jack was in his barn when Owen arrived, mucking out stalls, and he looked up with a friendly grin. "Owen Tucker, as I live and breathe." "What brings you out this early?" "I need a favor," Owen said, dismounting. "Can you keep an eye on my place today? Make sure the animals are fed and watered." "Sure, no problem. You going somewhere?" Owen took a breath. "I am going to Amarillo to get married." Jack's jaw dropped so fast Owen heard it crack. "You are what now?" "Getting married. To a woman named Penelope Garrison." "Since when do you have a woman?" "Last I knew you were wedded to that ranch of yours and nothing else." "It is a recent development," Owen said dryly. "She arrived yesterday, and we are making it official today." Jack leaned on his pitchfork, studying Owen with the shrewd eyes of someone who had known hard times and could recognize them in others. "She in some kind of trouble?" "Was. Not anymore, if I have anything to say about it." "You are a good man, Owen Tucker, better than most. I will look after your place, and when you get back, you and your new bride should come for dinner. Mary will want to meet her." "Thank you, Jack, I appreciate it." "What are neighbors for?" Jack clapped him on the shoulder. "Now get going. Justice of the peace keeps office hours, and you do not want to miss them." Owen rode back to his ranch with a lightness in his chest he had not felt in years. When he arrived, Penelope had attempted to tame her hair into a braid, though without a proper brush or mirror, it was a lopsided affair. She had also rolled his shirt sleeves more neatly and cinched the trousers with a piece of rope to keep them from falling down. "I know I look terrible," she said before Owen could speak, "but it is the best I can do with what I have." "You look fine. But if you want, we can stop at the general store in Amarillo and get you a proper dress. Maybe some other things you need." Penelope's eyes went wide. "I do not have any money to pay for that." "I do. And you are about to be my wife, which means what is mine is yours. That includes money for a dress." Owen held out his hand. "Come on, we have a long ride ahead of us." The journey to Amarillo took several hours on horseback, with Penelope riding behind Owen on his sturdy roan mare. She held onto his waist, and Owen was acutely aware of every place her body touched his. They did not talk much during the ride, both caught up in their own thoughts, but the silence was not uncomfortable. Amarillo was a bustling town, at least by Texas standards, with a main street full of shops and businesses catering to ranchers and travelers passing through. Owen led them straight to the general store, where a middle-aged woman with kind eyes greeted them. "Help you folks?" she asked. "We need a dress," Owen said. "Something nice but practical, and whatever else a woman might need." The shopkeeper looked at Penelope in her oversized men's clothes and did not ask questions, which Owen appreciated. "I have several ready-made dresses in the back. What size are you, dear?" Penelope looked lost. "I do not know. I have not bought a new dress in over a year." "Come with me. We will find you something that fits." The woman led Penelope behind a curtain, leaving Owen to wander the store. He picked out a brush and comb set, some hairpins, a bar of scented soap, and a warm shawl for cool evenings. When Penelope emerged 20 minutes later, Owen nearly dropped the items he was holding. She wore a simple dress of deep blue cotton that brought out the color of her eyes and actually fit her properly. It had long sleeves and a modest neckline, appropriate for a ranch wife, but the cut of it showed her figure in a way his baggy clothes had not. She was slender but not frail, with curves in all the right places. "What do you think?" Penelope asked, sounding nervous. "You look beautiful," Owen said honestly, and was rewarded by a blush that colored her cheeks pink. They purchased the dress along with the other items, and Owen added a pair of sturdy boots in Penelope's size and some undergarments that the shopkeeper helped pick out. The total came to more than he usually spent in a month, but seeing Penelope's face light up with each item made it worth every penny. "I will pay you back somehow," Penelope said as they left the store. "You already are by agreeing to marry me," Owen replied. "Now, let us go make it legal." The justice of the peace had an office above the bank, a cramped room stuffed with law books and papers. He was a thin man with spectacles and a permanent ink stain on his right hand, but he greeted them warmly enough. "Marriage license?" he asked. Owen realized he had not thought that far ahead. "Do we need one?" "Technically, yes, but I can issue one right now if you have the fee and 2 witnesses." The justice looked at them over his spectacles. "I take it this is a sudden decision. You could say that," Owen admitted. "Well, I am not one to judge. Love strikes when it will, fast or slow." The man pulled out a form and began filling it in. "Names? Owen Tucker and Penelope Garrison. Ages? 28 and 22, Owen supplied. The justice wrote it all down, then looked up. "I will need 2 witnesses. You can grab someone off the street if need be. People do not usually mind for $1. Owen was about to do just that when the door opened and a woman with graying hair and a worn but clean dress walked in. "Samuel, I brought you lunch." "Perfect timing, dear. These 2 need witnesses for a wedding. You and I can stand in." The justice introduced his wife, Martha, who readily agreed to witness the ceremony. Samuel found a second witness by calling down to the bank clerk below, and within 10 minutes they were all assembled in the cramped office. Owen and Penelope stood facing the justice, and Owen noticed Penelope's hands were shaking. "Do you have a ring?" Samuel asked. Owen's heart sank. "No, I did not think of that. Here." Martha pulled a simple gold band from her own finger. "My mother's. You can use it for the ceremony and get your own later." "We could not," Penelope started, but Martha pressed it into Owen's hand. "Of course you can. Every bride deserves a ring on her wedding day." Samuel cleared his throat and began the ceremony, reading from a small book in a steady voice. Owen had been to a few weddings in his time, but he had never imagined being in one himself, certainly not like this. Yet as he listened to the traditional words and looked into Penelope's eyes, something settled in his chest. This felt right. "Do you, Owen Tucker, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" To have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part. I do, Owen said clearly. And do you, Penelope Garrison, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part. Penelope's voice was barely a whisper. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Texas, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Owen had not thought about this part. He leaned in slowly, giving Penelope time to pull away if she wanted to, but she met him halfway. Their lips touched briefly, chastely, but Owen felt that small contact all the way to his toes. They signed the marriage certificate. The witnesses added their signatures, and just like that, Owen Tucker was a married man. Martha hugged Penelope like she was her own daughter. Congratulations, dear. I hope you will be very happy together. Thank you, Penelope said, and Owen could see tears gathering in her eyes. Thank you so much. They left the justice's office as husband and wife, and Owen felt like he was walking through a dream. On the street below, Penelope stopped and looked down at the ring on her finger, Martha's mother's ring that they would return tomorrow. I cannot believe we just did that, she said, having regrets already. Owen tried to keep his tone light. No, not regrets, just disbelief. Yesterday I was dying in the desert. Today I am married. She looked up at him, and there were definitely tears now spilling down her cheeks. Thank you, Owen. I know you say I do not need to keep thanking you, but I do. You saved my life. And you saved mine from loneliness, Owen said softly. He reached out and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks with his thumb. We saved each other. That seems like a fair trade to me. They bought Penelope a proper wedding ring at a small jewelry shop, a simple band that matched Owen's, which he purchased for himself. They also stopped at a restaurant and had a wedding meal of steak and potatoes, the fanciest thing Owen had eaten in months. By the time they started the ride back to the ranch, the sun was beginning to set. Penelope fell asleep against Owen's back during the ride, exhausted from the emotion and activity of the day. Owen held the reins with one hand and used the other to steady her, making sure she did not slip off the horse. When they finally reached the ranch, the stars were out in full force, scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. We are home, Owen said softly, and Penelope stirred. Home, she repeated sleepily. I like the sound of that. Owen helped her down from the horse and into the house while he took care of the mare. When he came back inside, Penelope was sitting at the table, still wearing her new blue dress, looking around the modest room like it was a palace. This is really my home now, she said, wonder in her voice. Our home. It really is. Owen hung his hat on the peg and turned to face her. Penelope, I meant what I said yesterday. I will not force anything on you. You can keep the bedroom and I will sleep out here until you are ready for more. There is no rush. Penelope stood and walked over to him, and Owen was struck again by how beautiful she was, especially now with color back in her cheeks and life in her eyes. Owen Tucker, you are the most decent man I have ever met, but we are married now, truly married. And I think we should share a bed like married people do. Owen's mouth went dry. Are you sure? I am sure that I trust you, which is more than I have been able to say about any man in a very long time. I am sure that you have been kind and respectful and patient. And I am sure that whatever happens between us, it will be because we both want it, not because anyone is forcing anything. She reached out and took his hand. Show me that not all men are like my uncle, Owen, please. Owen pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her and feeling her melt into the embrace. I promise you, Penelope Tucker, I will spend every day proving to you that you made the right choice in trusting me. That night, they shared a bed for the first time as husband and wife, and Owen kept his promise. He was gentle and patient, taking his time, making sure Penelope felt safe and cherished. Afterward, as she lay curled against his chest, her breathing deep and even with sleep, Owen stared at the ceiling and marveled at how completely his life had changed in just 2 days. The next few weeks fell into a comfortable rhythm. Penelope proved to be a quick learner and a hard worker, taking on the household chores with enthusiasm and gradually expanding her knowledge to help with the ranch work as well. She learned to milk the cow Owen purchased from Jack Morrison, to gather eggs from the chickens he bought at market, to tend the vegetable garden she planted behind the house. Owen found himself looking forward to coming in from the fields each evening, knowing Penelope would be there with a hot meal and a warm smile. They talked for hours, learning about each other in the way they should have before getting married but were doing now instead. Owen told her about his childhood in Missouri, about following his parents to Texas after the war, about losing them both and deciding to build something of his own. Penelope shared more about her life before her uncle, about her father who had been a schoolteacher and her mother who had sung in the church choir. "I miss them every day," Penelope said one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "But I think they would have liked you. My father always said the measure of a man was in his actions, not his words. You act with kindness, Owen. That would have mattered to him." "I wish I could have met them," Owen said honestly. He reached over and took her hand, intertwining their fingers. It was a simple gesture, but one that had become natural over the past weeks. "Do you ever regret it, marrying me so quickly?" Penelope turned to look at him, her eyes serious. "Not once, do you?" "Never." Owen raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. "Best decision I ever made, desperate and dirty bride and all." Penelope laughed and swatted his shoulder. "I was not that bad. You were worse. I had to burn those clothes." "Did you really?" "Absolutely. They were beyond saving." They sat together in companionable silence, watching the sky turn from orange to purple to deep blue. Owen felt a contentment he had never known before, a sense of rightness that seemed to settle into his very bones. A month after the wedding, Jack and Mary Morrison came for dinner as promised, bringing their 3 children. Mary was a plump, cheerful woman who took to Penelope immediately, and by the end of the evening they were chatting like old friends. "I am so glad Owen found someone," Mary said as she helped Penelope clear the dishes. "He has been alone too long. A man needs a wife and a ranch needs a woman's touch." "I am the lucky one," Penelope replied. "Owen gave me a new life when I had nothing." "Seems to me you both got lucky," Mary said wisely. "That is how the best marriages work, both people choosing each other every day." That night, after the Morrisons had gone home and Owen and Penelope were preparing for bed, Penelope brought up something that had been on her mind. "Owen, I have been thinking. I want to write to my uncle." Owen froze in the act of removing his boots. "Why?" "To tell him I am married and settled, and that he has no claim on me anymore. I do not want him showing up here someday thinking he can drag me back to Oklahoma City." Penelope sat on the edge of the bed, her expression determined. "I want to close that chapter of my life completely." "All right," Owen said slowly, "but I am adding a note of my own. He needs to know that if he comes anywhere near you, he will answer to me." They wrote the letters together the next day, Penelope's brief and formal, Owen's shorter but pointed. They posted them in Amarillo the following week, and Penelope seemed lighter afterward, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Summer gave way to fall, and the ranch thrived under their combined efforts. Owen was able to buy more cattle, and Penelope's garden produced enough vegetables that they could preserve some for winter. They fell into the habit of working side by side during the day, and falling into bed together at night, both of them too tired for much besides sleep, but content with the closeness. One evening in late October, Penelope made an announcement over dinner that stopped Owen's fork halfway to his mouth. "I think I might be pregnant." Owen stared at her, his mind racing. "You think? You are not sure?" "I am 3 weeks late with my monthly courses, and I have been feeling sick in the mornings. Those seem like fairly clear signs." Penelope looked nervous, twisting her napkin in her hands. "I know we have not talked about children yet. Is this something you want?" Owen got up from his chair and knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. "Penelope, of course I want this. A child with you, that would be incredible. Are you happy about it?" "I am terrified," Penelope admitted. "But yes, I am happy too. I always wanted children before everything happened with my uncle. I had given up on that dream. Now it seems like it might come true after all. Then we will make sure you and the baby are healthy and cared for. I will take you to a doctor in Amarillo tomorrow to confirm it." The doctor confirmed what they suspected. Penelope was indeed pregnant, probably about 6 weeks along, which would put the baby's arrival sometime in late May or early June. Owen walked out of that doctor's office feeling 10 feet tall. He was going to be a father. Winter came, and with it a slower pace of life. Owen took on less work around the ranch, focusing on the essential tasks and spending more time with Penelope, who was increasingly uncomfortable as her belly grew. She sewed baby clothes from fabric Owen bought in town, and he built a cradle from oak wood, sanding it smooth so there would be no splinters. They grew closer during those months, learning to read each other's moods and needs without words. Owen discovered that Penelope loved to sing while she worked, old hymns her mother had taught her. Penelope discovered that Owen had a talent for whittling and would carve little animals from scraps of wood while they sat by the fire in the evenings. "I love you," Owen said one night, the words slipping out before he could think better of them. They had not said it yet, not in so many words, though Owen had felt it growing in his chest for weeks. Penelope looked up from the tiny shirt she was hemming, her eyes wide. "What?" "I love you," Owen repeated, more firmly this time. "I know we did not marry for love, but somewhere along the way I fell anyway. I love you, Penelope Tucker." Tears welled in Penelope's eyes, but she was smiling. "I love you too. I have for a while now. I was just afraid to say it, afraid you might not feel the same way." Owen crossed the room and pulled her into his arms, careful of her swollen belly. "I feel the same way. I will always feel the same way. You are my wife, my partner, my best friend. I cannot imagine my life without you." They kissed, long and sweet, and when they pulled apart, Penelope was crying in earnest now. "I came to your ranch desperate and dirty with nothing to offer you, and you gave me everything. A home, a name, a family, love. How did I get so lucky?" "I think I am the lucky one," Owen said, wiping away her tears. "You brought life to this place. You brought life to me." As winter melted into spring, Penelope grew larger and more uncomfortable, but she never complained. She still insisted on doing her share of the work, though Owen tried to get her to rest more. Mary Morrison came by once a week to check on her, bringing advice and hand-me-down baby clothes from her own children. "You are doing wonderfully," Mary assured Penelope during one visit. "First babies can be tricky, but you are healthy and strong. You will do just fine when the time comes." The time came on a warm evening in early June, about 2 weeks earlier than the doctor had predicted. Owen had been in the barn when he heard Penelope call out, and he ran to the house to find her leaning against the table, her face pale. "The baby is coming," she said through gritted teeth. "The pain started an hour ago." Owen's mind went blank with panic for about 3 seconds, and then training kicked in. He had helped deliver calves and foals more times than he could count. A human baby could not be that different, right? I am going to get Mary, he said, helping Penelope to the bed. I will be as fast as I can. He rode to the Morrison ranch at a full gallop, nearly giving Jack a heart attack when he burst into their yard shouting for Mary. She grabbed her bag of supplies and climbed up behind Owen, and they raced back to the ranch together. By the time they arrived, Penelope's pains were coming faster and harder. Mary took charge with the calm efficiency of someone who had done this before, sending Owen to boil water and gather clean towels while she examined Penelope. Everything looks good, Mary announced. Baby is positioned right. It will just take time now. Time turned out to be nearly 12 hours. Owen stayed by Penelope's side the whole time, holding her hand, wiping her forehead with cool cloths, murmuring encouragement even though he had no idea what he was doing. Mary moved around them with quiet competence, checking on Penelope's progress and occasionally giving instructions. Push now, Mary said finally. That is it, Penelope, push. Penelope gripped Owen's hand so hard he thought his bones might break, and she pushed with everything she had. The sound she made was somewhere between a scream and a growl, primal and powerful. And then suddenly there was another sound, a thin, wailing cry that made Owen's heart stop and restart all at once. It is a boy, Mary announced, holding up a tiny, red-faced creature covered in blood and vernix. You have a son. Owen stared at the baby, his son, and felt tears streaming down his face. He is perfect. Mary cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a soft blanket, then placed him in Penelope's arms. Penelope was crying too, looking down at their son with an expression of such pure love that Owen had to look away for a moment to compose himself. Hello, little one, Penelope whispered. I am your mama and this is your papa. We are so happy you are here. The baby stopped crying and looked up at them with dark, unfocused eyes. Owen reached out and touched one tiny hand, and his son's fingers immediately wrapped around his finger, holding tight. What should we name him? Penelope asked. They had discussed names but never settled on one. Now, looking at his son, Owen knew exactly what he wanted to call him. Samuel, he said, after the justice who married us. Without him, none of this would have happened. Samuel Tucker, Penelope tested the name. I love it. Mary stayed for a few more hours to make sure both mother and baby were doing well, then headed home with promises to check in the next day. Owen and Penelope were left alone with their son, marveling at the tiny person they had created together. I cannot believe he is real, Penelope said softly, tracing Samuel's small features with one finger. He is so perfect. He has your nose, Owen observed, and your chin. Penelope looked up at him, her eyes still red from crying but glowing with happiness. We made a person, Owen. How incredible is that? Pretty damn incredible, Owen agreed. He climbed onto the bed beside them, careful not to jostle Penelope, and wrapped his arm around her shoulders. I love you so much, both of you. We love you too, Penelope said, leaning into him. They sat like that for a long time, the three of them together, watching the sun rise on their first day as a family. The next few months were a blur of sleepless nights and constant feedings, but Owen had never been happier. Samuel was a good baby, healthy and strong, and he grew fast. Penelope took to motherhood naturally, and Owen discovered that he loved being a father more than he had ever imagined possible. Word spread about the new baby, and neighbors started dropping by with gifts and congratulations. The Morrisons came, of course, and other ranching families from the area. Even the circuit preacher stopped by to bless the child when he passed through in August. Life settled into a new normal, busier than before but richer too. Owen hired a ranch hand to help with some of the heavier work, a young man named Carlos who was reliable and hardworking. This freed Owen up to spend more time with Penelope and Samuel, and he treasured those hours. When Samuel was 6 months old, Jack Morrison rode over with news that made Owen's blood run cold. "There was a man in Amarillo yesterday asking about a woman matching Penelope's description," Jack said without preamble. "Said he was looking for his niece who had run away. I figured you should know." Owen's jaw clenched. What did people tell him? Most folks do not know her story, so they probably did not make the connection. But Owen, if he keeps asking around, someone might mention you got married around the time he is talking about. It would not take much to put the pieces together. "Thank you for telling me, Jack. I appreciate it." After Jack left, Owen sat on the porch steps and tried to think. He had hoped that Penelope's uncle would leave them alone after receiving their letters, but apparently the man was not willing to let go that easily. The question was, what was Owen going to do about it? He decided not to tell Penelope yet. She was so happy, so content with their life, and he did not want to worry her unless it was absolutely necessary. Instead, he made sure to keep his rifle cleaned and loaded, and he started paying closer attention to anyone who came near the ranch. 2 days later, a man on a gray horse rode up to the house while Owen was fixing a fence near the road. Owen recognized him immediately from Penelope's description. Mid-50s, well-dressed, with a neatly trimmed beard and cold eyes. "Can I help you?" Owen called out, his hand resting casually near the knife at his belt. "I am looking for my niece," the man said. "Penelope Garrison. I heard there is a woman living here who might match her description." "There is no Penelope Garrison here," Owen said truthfully. "My wife is Penelope Tucker, and she is not going anywhere." The man's face darkened. "She is my niece and my ward. She ran away from my care, and I have every right to bring her back. She is an adult woman and my lawfully wedded wife. You have no rights where she is concerned anymore." Owen straightened to his full height, which was a good 3 inches taller than the other man. "I suggest you ride back to Oklahoma City and forget you ever came here." "Or what?" The man's hand moved toward his coat, but Owen was faster. He pulled his knife and held it loosely at his side, not threatening but ready. "Or I will defend my wife and my home by whatever means necessary. And I promise you, I am very good at defending what is mine." For a long moment they stared at each other, and Owen could see the calculation in the other man's eyes. He was weighing whether Penelope was worth fighting for, and Owen prayed he would decide she was not. Finally, the man jerked his horse's reins. "This is not over." "Yes, it is," Owen said firmly. "You lost any claim on Penelope the moment she became my wife. If you come back here, if you try to contact her or threaten her in any way, I will go to the law. And failing that, I will handle you myself. Do you understand me?" The man spat in the dirt but turned his horse and rode away. Owen watched until he was out of sight, then went into the house where Penelope was nursing Samuel. "Who was that?" she asked, looking up. Owen considered lying, but they had built their marriage on honesty. "Your uncle. He came looking for you." Penelope went pale and her arms tightened protectively around the baby. "What did you tell him?" "That you are my wife and he has no claim on you, that if he came back I would handle it." Owen knelt beside her chair. "He left, Penelope. I do not think he will return. He knows now that you are protected, that you have a husband who will not let him take you. What if he does come back? What if he tries to hurt you or Samuel?" Or Owen cut her off with a gentle kiss. "He will not, and if he tries, I will stop him. I promised you once that you would be safe here, and I meant it. That promise extends to our son too." Penelope leaned her forehead against his. "I am sorry I brought this trouble to your door." "You brought joy to my door," Owen corrected. "Everything else we can handle together." The uncle did not return, though Owen remained vigilant for weeks afterward. Eventually, life returned to normal, and the threat faded into memory. Samuel grew from a baby into a toddler, running around the ranch and getting into everything. Penelope bloomed in the Texas sun, growing stronger and more confident with each passing season. Owen's ranch prospered, aided by good weather and the hard work of everyone involved. When Samuel was almost 2, Penelope told Owen she was pregnant again. This time there was no fear, only joy and excitement. Their second child, a daughter they named Rose, was born in March during a rare snowstorm. She had Penelope's blonde hair and Owen's dark eyes, and she completed their family in a way none of them had known they needed. Years passed in the way they do on a working ranch, marked by seasons and harvests and the growth of children. Samuel grew tall and strong, fascinated by the cattle and horses. Rose was quieter, preferring to help her mother in the garden or with the cooking. They were good children, happy and loved, and Owen counted himself blessed every single day. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Owen took Penelope into Amarillo for a rare evening out. They had dinner at the same restaurant where they had eaten on their wedding day, and afterward they walked through the town under the stars. "Do you ever think about that day?" Penelope asked, her hand warm in his. "The day I collapsed at your ranch." "Sometimes," Owen admitted. "I think about how different my life would be if I had been working somewhere else that day, if I had not seen you. I try not to dwell on it because it makes me too aware of how lucky I got." "We both got lucky," Penelope said. She stopped walking and turned to face him. "Owen Tucker, you gave me everything when I had nothing. You gave me a bath and a wedding ring and a whole new life. You gave me children and love and a home. I wake up every morning amazed that this is real, that I get to live this life with you." Owen pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the familiar curve of her body against his. "I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Every moment, every decision that brought us here. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Penelope Tucker." They kissed under the stars of Amarillo. Two people who had found each other in the most unlikely way and built something beautiful from desperate beginnings. 15 years after Penelope first stumbled onto his ranch, Owen Tucker sat on his porch in the evening watching his children play in the yard. Samuel, now 17, was teaching his younger sister how to rope a fence post. Rose, 13 and already showing signs of her mother's beauty, laughed as her lasso went wide. Penelope came out and sat beside him, her hair now showing strands of silver, but her eyes still the same clear blue-green that had captivated him from the start. She rested her head on his shoulder and Owen wrapped his arm around her. "Hard to believe it has been 15 years, she said softly. "Best 15 years of my life," Owen replied. "Mine too." Penelope watched their children with a smile. "We have built something good here, have not we?" "We have built everything I ever wanted," Owen said. "A family, a home, a life worth living. And it all started because a desperate, dirty woman fell at my doorstep and I decided to give her a chance. You gave me more than a chance. You gave me yourself." Penelope turned to kiss him, sweet and familiar after years of marriage. "I love you, Owen Tucker." "I love you too, Penelope Tucker. Today, tomorrow, and every day after." As the sun set over the Texas plains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold, the Tucker family gathered together. Samuel and Rose ran up to the porch, and Penelope went inside to finish preparing supper while Owen lingered a moment longer, looking out over the land he had built with his own hands and the woman who had made it a home. He thought about that day 15 years ago, about finding Penelope in the dirt, about making the impulsive decision to marry a stranger. It should have been a disaster. By all rights, it should have ended badly. But instead, it had been the making of both of them. Inside, he could hear Penelope singing as she worked, the same hymns her mother had taught her. Rose's laughter echoed through the house, and Samuel was telling some story about the new horse he wanted to break. These were the sounds of Owen's life now, the soundtrack to his days, and he would not trade them for anything in the world. The ranch thrived under their continued care, growing from a modest operation to one of the most successful in the region. Owen took on more hired hands as the years passed, and eventually Samuel took over much of the day-to-day operations, showing a natural talent for ranching that made his father proud. Rose, as she grew older, discovered a love of teaching and began helping some of the younger children in the area learn to read and write, holding lessons in the Tucker house twice a week. Penelope supported her daughter's passion, remembering her own father's dedication to education. When Samuel turned 21, he married a neighboring rancher's daughter named Emily, a sensible young woman with a quick smile and a good head for figures. They built a house on the far edge of the Tucker property, and within a year they had a son of their own, making Owen and Penelope grandparents for the first time. Holding his grandson, a boy Samuel named Owen after his father, Owen Tucker felt the circle of life completing itself in the most satisfying way. He was 51 now, his hair more gray than brown, his hands rough and scarred from decades of work. But he was happy, surrounded by family and the fruits of his labor. Rose married at 20 to a young doctor who had set up practice in Amarillo. She moved to town but visited often, and her children, when they came, spent summers at the ranch learning to ride and rope alongside their cousins. Through it all, Owen and Penelope remained the center of the family, the foundation on which everything else was built. They still worked the ranch together, though they left more of the heavy labor to younger hands. They still sat on the porch in the evenings, watching the sunset and talking about their day. They still shared a bed each night and woke up together each morning, still finding comfort and joy in each other's presence after decades of marriage. On a warm spring evening, when Owen was 63 and Penelope was 57, they hosted a gathering for their entire family. All their children and grandchildren came, filling the house with noise and laughter and life. Owen stood at the head of the table, looking at the faces around him, every one of them here because he had decided to help a desperate woman on a hot afternoon 30 years ago. "I want to say something," Owen announced, and the table quieted. 30 years ago, a woman collapsed at my doorstep. She was desperate and dirty and had nothing but the torn dress on her back. I gave her a bath and a wedding ring, and she gave me everything you see here today. This family, this life, it all started with a choice we both made to take a chance on each other." He looked at Penelope, sitting beside him with tears in her eyes, still beautiful after all these years. "I have never regretted that choice, not for a single moment. You are the love of my life, Penelope Tucker, and I am grateful every day that you stumbled onto my ranch. And I am grateful every day that you were kind enough to help me," Penelope said, her voice thick with emotion. "You saved my life, Owen, and then you made it worth living." Their children and grandchildren applauded, and Samuel stood to propose a toast to his parents, to the love that had built their family and the ranch that had sustained them. They raised their glasses and drank to the future while honoring the past. As the evening wore on and the younger grandchildren fell asleep in various corners of the house, Owen and Penelope slipped away to the porch, seeking a moment of quiet together. They sat in the chairs they had occupied 1,000 times before, holding hands and watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "You think we would have found each other if I had not run away?" Penelope asked. "If circumstances had been different, I like to think we would have," Owen said. "Somehow, somewhere, I believe we were meant to find each other, but I am glad it happened the way it did because every moment since has led us here." "Here is pretty good," Penelope agreed, squeezing his hand. "Here is perfect," Owen corrected. They sat in comfortable silence, two people who had learned to communicate as much in the quiet moments as in conversation. Inside, they could hear their family settling in for the night, the sounds of children being put to bed, of adults talking quietly, of a home full of love and life. Owen thought about the scared young man he had been at 28, alone on a struggling ranch and wondering if he would spend his whole life that way. He thought about the broken young woman who had walked over 200 miles to escape a terrible situation. Neither of them could have imagined then what they would build together, the legacy they would leave. "I love you," Owen said, the same words he had spoken countless times over the years, but which never lost their meaning. "I love you too," Penelope replied, the same response she had given every time and would continue to give until her last breath. The years continued to pass, bringing changes and challenges as they always did. Owen's health began to fail as he entered his 70s, his joints stiff with arthritis and his breathing labored from decades of hard work. Penelope remained his constant companion and caretaker, just as he had been for her all those years ago when she had arrived desperate and dying. Samuel ran the ranch now, with help from his sons and his sister's boys when they came to visit. The Tucker Ranch had become a landmark in the region, known for quality cattle and honest dealing. It was a legacy built on hard work and love, and it would continue long after its founders were gone. On a quiet morning in late autumn, Owen Tucker died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 78, with Penelope holding his hand. He had lived a good life, a full life, and he left behind children and grandchildren who loved him and would remember him always. Penelope buried him on a hill overlooking the ranch, with a simple headstone that read, "Owen Tucker, beloved husband and father, he gave everything." She visited his grave every day, sitting on the bench Samuel had built beside it, talking to Owen about the ranch and the family and how much she missed him. 3 years later, at the age of 73, Penelope Tucker joined her husband. Her children found her in the garden she had tended for nearly 50 years, a peaceful smile on her face. They buried her beside Owen with a headstone that read, "Penelope Tucker, beloved wife and mother, she made everything worthwhile." The ranch continued through the generations, passed down from Samuel to his sons to their children. Each generation added something new while honoring the foundation Owen and Penelope had built. The story of how they met became family legend, told and retold to children and grandchildren. A tale of kindness and courage and love that transcended the desperate circumstances of its beginning. In the main house, which had been expanded and modernized over the years, but still retained its original core, there hung a portrait of Owen and Penelope painted during their 50th wedding anniversary. In it, they sat together on their beloved porch, his arm around her shoulders, both of them smiling at something beyond the frame. It was the image of a love that had lasted a lifetime, that had built something enduring from the most unlikely start. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the sun painted the Texas sky in brilliant colors, those who worked the ranch swore they could see two figures sitting on the porch of the old house, holding hands and watching the sunset together, still in love after all these years, after all eternity. The Tucker Ranch stood as a testament to what could be built when two desperate souls found each other and chose love over fear, partnership over loneliness, hope over despair. It stood as proof that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places, and that kindness given freely can change the world in ways both small and profound. Owen had given Penelope a bath and a wedding ring when she came to his ranch desperate and dirty. In return, she had given him everything that mattered: love, family, purpose, and a life worth living. It was a fair trade, the best either of them had ever made, and its effects rippled forward through time, shaping generations yet to come. And that, in the end, was the truest measure of their love. Not in the passion of their youth or the comfort of their old age, but in the legacy they left behind, in the lives they touched, in the family they built from nothing but hope and determination, and an impulsive decision to help a stranger on a hot Texas afternoon. Their story had a happy ending, the kind that lasts long after the final page is turned, the kind that echoes through the years and reminds everyone who hears it that love, real love, can conquer anything. That sometimes all it takes is one person brave enough to ask for help and another person kind enough to give it. That from the ashes of desperation and despair, beauty can bloom and flourish and endure. The Tucker Ranch still stands today, over 100 years after Owen first built it, still in the family, still thriving. And on clear nights when the stars are bright and the wind whispers through the grass, those who know the story can almost hear the echo of Penelope's singing, can almost see Owen walking the fence line, can almost feel the love that permeated every inch of that land and everything built upon it. It was a love story for the ages, born in the wild west of Texas, nurtured through hardship and triumph alike, and enduring long past the lives of those who lived it. It was the story of a woman who came to a ranch desperate and dirty, and a man who gave her a bath and a wedding ring, and in doing so, gave them both everything they had ever wanted. And they lived, if not perfectly, then as close to perfect as two imperfect people can manage, loving each other through every season of life until death parted them, and then beyond, into whatever comes next, still together, still in love, still the best thing that ever happened to each other. The end of their mortal story was just the beginning of their legend, passed down through generations of Tuckers who grew up hearing about great-great-grandfather Owen and great-great-grandmother Penelope, who met under the strangest circumstances and built the foundation of everything the family would become. Their story inspired countless others to take chances on love, to show kindness to strangers, to believe that happy endings were possible even from the most desperate beginnings. And perhaps that is the real legacy of Owen and Penelope Tucker. Not just the ranch or the family or the material success, but the reminder that love can be found in unexpected places, that kindness matters, that taking a chance on someone can change both your lives forever. They proved that sometimes the best decisions are the impulsive ones, that sometimes strangers become soulmates, and that sometimes all it takes to build a lifetime of happiness is one moment of courage and compassion. Their story was complete, their ending happy, their love eternal. And that is the best any love story can hope to achieve.